I'm Hannah Wallace and welcome to Finextra TV. Kindly joining me now is Tom Hewson, Senior Partner at RedCompass, and we're talking about some of the changes we're seeing across the payments industry and what financial institutions can do to meet the demands. Hello Tom, thank you very much for joining us. It's lovely to meet you.
Hi Hannah.
So yes, there's no doubt there's a huge wave of change across the payments industry. All the while, banks across Europe are tackling low ROE and trying to cut costs, adapt to regulation and comply. So there's a lot to take into account. With all this in mind, what advice would you give to a head of payments trying to meet these demands and keeping up with the pace set?
I think first of all, I'd say, my commiserations. There's a lot of pressure from a lot of angles. I think that the opportunity though is to kind of change how we think about this. And I genuinely believe that how we look today and how we operate today and how we run projects and how we run change today, we'll look back in 5 years, maybe 3 years, but definitely in 7 years and say, oh my goodness, how did we even think we could manage? Because the current demand of regulation, the current requirement in terms of cutting costs cannot be met if we continue as we are.
All right, and there's a lot of talk about this sort of fog of data and information that financial institutions are struggling with. What do you think are some of the tools that they can use to sort of tackle these challenges?
Yeah, I think that's a good, it's a good analogy. I was thinking about this a lot, and in no way do I want to glamorize or add any Hollywood to war, but that phrase, fog of war, really has, I think, a pretty profound, it can give us profound insights in how human beings work together in complexity. So if I just give a really quick example. So if we think back to, the early days of how we used to fight wars, we put lots of boots on the ground, put lots of people there, we would take territory, we would hold territory with more boots on the ground, but people need more people. That you gotta cook for this army, and then you gotta give a jeep for someone to bring the food, and then you gotta fix their jeep, and you gotta feed the people who fix the jeeps, and we get more and more people, and we've seen a lot over the years how consultancies have brought in, 10 people, which moves to 20 people, which ends up being 40 people, or banks say, I don't want consultancies, but they end up with that many contractors. And I think that if we look at how we fight wars now, they are very small, highly skilled, highly trained, multifunctional teams that are wrapped in tech. And whether however you manage your change, whether it's agile or waterfall or whatever you do, the idea of boots on the ground cannot continue. It's too slow. It is too hard to pivot. It is too hard to meet the regulations within the cost requirements. So I think it really comes down to we have to change our project teams, highly skilled, highly trained, wrapped in tech, multifunctional, is really the only way we're going to get through these next few years, I think.
All right, and you say wrapped in tech. What do you mean by that? What technology are you talking about?
Yeah, I think that what we have at our fingertips now is that we have the ability within open source to manage large quantities of data. And lots of banks are building data lakes and they're trying to break down data silos. But it's not just the pouring everything into one place, it's being able to analyze this. So data analytics really is our ticket. In the past, use the old analogy, you would take some territory, you put some boots and they would keep watch. And then that became consultants who left people to look around and try to keep an eye on things. Now you can use this technology, I think, to monitor millions of transactions, to monitor things which haven't happened, but are about to happen. So I think if you're not using a data analytics platform to accelerate your projects and to monitor your projects, your chances of being successful are pretty slim.
That's really interesting. All right, and what about the areas that are less regulated? What does this all mean for those who've got less funding, say the elements of banking like human trafficking, which of course is really important to society?
Yeah, I think that for us, because it really matters, and here's why it matters, because people come to work because they care, and we see this in banks too, right? This monolith idea of bankers, it doesn't exist. They're human beings, and they care, and yet they have such a downward pressure of regulations they must do and a limit on cost. The things they want to do, like really impact our society. Human trafficking is a great example. They find that there's never any money or budget for. And unless we break the paradigm where projects are run by, multifunctional teams, they're not just thinking about my project, I'm defending my project scope, but they're thinking, what are we trying to achieve across all of this? We can't do it. But if we do think like that, here's your data, and to look at human trafficking, to use your example. Well, I'm doing a payments project, I'm doing a financial crime project, and I've got a compliance project, and 90% of the data is identical. We just need to add an element here from the KYC, an element there, and suddenly we have enough information.
Join the two.
Yeah, that we can start presenting to you the outcome of, say, a human trafficking, trace that's somehow flowing through your bank.
So the bank can benefit, and so can society.
If we have the courage to change how we do things today.
Some really positive developments ahead then. Tom, thank you so much for your time. It's been really insightful.
Thanks, Hannah.
And thank you for watching.